Tekken 8 was kind of a huge deal. It introduced the biggest changes to the series since, at the very least, Tekken 5, which was well over 20 years ago, but arguably marked the biggest changes to the gameplay since Tekken 3, which was where the game first went from 2D to fully three-dimensional. That's a big deal. With so many changes, like a whole new meter system, the first of its kind in Tekken, and this being the first ever Tekken title to not launch first in the arcade, meant a lot of us were expecting a rough transition period. The base version of Tekken 7 released a year prior in arcades, essentially acting as a beta testing period before the version we know today, Fated Retribution, was released. This allowed them to fine-tune the balance and various system issues for the full game's launch. Because Tekken 8 didn't get this, I think it's fair to say that the first year was always going to have some problems. We expected this. What we didn't expect was for the Year 2 update, Season 2, to take almost all of the issues the community had with this new installment and make them significantly worse. Here we are now, almost 6 months into Season 2, and the meta is all over the place. Aggression has never been so important in a Tekken game, and talks of Unga Bunga, Casino, 50-50 guessing games are rampant. So many people believe that much of the core skill surrounding Tekken has been lost, leaving a significantly easier, and thus less interesting game in its wake. What makes people think this? Why do so many people have an incredibly negative view of Season 2? In this video, I'm going to be going over some of the most problematic top tiers in Season 2 of Tekken 8, a selection of characters who I believe best represent the current issues in this game. And we'll be figuring out why this casino guessing game reputation is so prevalent. What do the top tiers in Tekken 8 have that they didn't have back in Tekken 7? We'll be answering all of this and more. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more scripted Tekken content like this. It's a great way to let me know you enjoy the content. And of course it supports me, because these videos take a ton of work to make. A brief note for more casual viewers, I'm going to be talking about frame data in this video. I know it's scary for a lot of you, but if you're interested in learning the basics, the main man Sui has a really good old video explaining everything you need to know. I'll link it in the description below. Alright, let's get into the first character.
Lovely Tom's craving for a good time.
Anna has been seen as the definitive top 1 character for most of Season 2, and it is pretty easy to see why. Every issue people have with Tekken 8 is honestly exemplified to the max when it comes to Anna. We have crazy lockdown pressure that can loop into itself, constant casino mix-ups, crazy weapon strikes with stupidly big range, broken chip damage with her debuff. Everything you see people complain about with modern Tekken, Anna represents. She's by far the easiest character in the top 5, and in my opinion is one of the easiest characters we've actually ever seen in Tekken. In prior Tekken games, Anna was always known for being a high-risk, high-reward mix-up character. She's one of the few characters in the series who can launch you for a full combo from an instant load that you can't react to. This is here and is better than ever in Tekken 8. Anna can press crouch at any time and has access to a 50-50, either launching you with this risky low or doing a mid. She can opt for a while standing 2 for a full mid launcher, but it is risky on block, or can do many other mids that leave her safe on block. This low is always a death game. Either you are gonna die or she is gonna die. Like I mentioned, this mix-up has always been in Tekken, but what hasn't always been in Tekken is heat engagers. See, if an Anna just walks up to you lazily and goes into crouch and tries to mix you up, you have quite a few options to deal with it. You can interrupt her with a faster move, or you can just sidestep it. It's pretty easy. But what happens when she hits you with a heat engager, this fun new mechanic introduced in Tekken 8, which by the way, she will be hitting a lot of because she has some of the best heat engagers in the game. More on this later. Season 2 actually added the ability to hold crouch after getting a heat engager, so characters like Anna and Deviljin are now able to force their strongest crouching 50-50s, and there is nothing you can do about it. You need to take a guess for your life, there's nothing else you can do. The core heat system helps Anna out so much, so even if she was in her old Tekken 7 self, the very risky all-or-nothing character, she would still be made significantly stronger just by nature of being in the Tekken 8 engine. Unfortunately though, this is not the case. She does not represent her Tekken 7 self. In fact, Tekken 8 Anna represents such a massive departure from her previous iterations that she's almost unrecognizable. In Tekken 8, she doesn't have to take risks. She doesn't even need to use the 50-50 we just mentioned, because the rest of her kit is so incredibly streamlined and safe. For example, Part of her identity was not getting safe lows. All of her lows would mostly get you blown up if your opponent blocked them in prior games. In Tekken 8, she's been given many safe lows. She has a new low that takes her into stance and gives her a guaranteed heat engager on counter hit, only -13 on block. She has Sidestep 2, another low that gives chunky plus frames on counter hit and is only -12. She's also been given a homing low from her Hammer Chant stance that is only -14 on block. Most characters can't launch any of these lows. All of a sudden, she doesn't have to take nearly as much risk to open her opponent up. Pretty interesting, right? She's also been made into a mid-range monster. She now has a new attack, Headless Horseman. Who is coming up with these move names, by the way? This is a crazy range, fully homing weapon strike. It is a high, but it comes out very fast, making it hard to duck, and is +4 on block. Great. If she ever thinks her opponent wants to duck from mid-range, she'll mix this up with another broken attack, her Down Back 2. This is a big range mid that is completely safe on block, and on hit, takes her into her other stance, forcing a mix-up. You either have to deal with a safe low that you can't launch, but if it hits you, gives +28 frames of advantage. Talk about stupid risk-reward. Whenever she hits this low, you have to take another mix-up. There is no option select. You just need to guess and pray to Hwoarang. From this stance, she also has a +4 on block bazooka mid, that if you block, debuffs your character. The debuff is Ana's unique mechanic, and even after the nerfs, is still crazy strong. Until your opponent lands an attack on you, they now take chip damage from every attack you use, even without heat, and this debuff also stacks with heat. If you manage to debuff your opponent while in heat, you now do ludicrous chip damage. I'm talking 29 damage in chip from a 3-hit string. When Ana gets going and starts her poking pressure sequences, it's not uncommon to lose like 40% of your health bar to chip damage? Why is this a thing? This would be strong on any character, but it's especially powerful on a character like Ana, who, as a lot of you guys know, is riddled with strings. Especially in Heat, where she gains a ton of bazooka string extensions that just kill you if you block them. Why is this a thing? Why does her rocket jump do 10 damage of chip? Why does she even have a rocket jump? Are we playing TF2? Honestly, we might as well be. There are just so many dumb moves on the character. Why does she get a safe on block mid-mid heat engager string that she can heat dash out of for a full combo? The only thing you can try doing is using a power crush, but we can't have actual counterplay, so let's give her a low follow-up as well. Every time you block the first hit of this heat engager, you need to take a guess. And the low isn't even launch punishable. Why? I've heard some Ana players actually say that she struggles with sidesteps, and I'm honestly dumbfounded by this. She has 1+2, an incredibly quick homing mid that is plus on block. On hit, it can go into stance, and it wall splats on counter hits. She also has back 2, a super fast homing high string that jails. You cannot duck the second hit. Why? We have back 4, a safe homing mid that wall splats, and on regular hit gives her 11 frames of advantage into stance, forcing a casino guessing situation. She does not struggle with homing. We also have a super fast high advancing counter hit launcher that is plus on block, an incredible neutral tool, and how about one of the best heat smashes in Tekken? This comes out at 13 frames, one of the very few characters in Tekken to have one this fast, and it gives a guaranteed debuff. Her heat in general is just so good. Even if you want to ignore the chip damage we mentioned, the string extensions alone just serve to power up her best moves, like her signature low launcher, which now has infinite range and does even more damage. Combine all this with the signature Tekken 8 top tier wall travel and combo damage, and we have a flawless character. After all this, would you believe that we haven't even talked about her most broken attribute yet? Her poking is stupid, and is arguably the best in the game, and not arguably the easiest to use in the game. Nina's might be stronger, but Ana's is light years easier to use and to understand. Of course, we have the Williams sisters down forward 1-2, being the best poke button in Tekken, and Ana's best move. With this 13 frame mid poke, you are constantly forcing mind games. Every single time you block this string, you need to be worrying about so much. Obviously, as I'm sure you guys have heard, it's a mid-high string, but it jails, so you cannot duck it. After blocking these first two, she's threatening a counter hit follow-up high that gives a heat engager and does 1/4 of your life bar, and a mid that knocks down, leading to her very oppressive ground game. She can delay both of these options, so there's no option select here. You can't fuzzy the high. These two extensions force you to respect the string, and as soon as you do, she starts going into her hammer chance stance at a neutral frame advantage. Yes, she can also go into stance from her down forward 1-2, and this hammer chance stance is incredibly broken in the current version of Tekken. We have a homing mid that high crushes, wall splats, and is impossible to punish because of the knockback. She gets potentially the best heat engager in the game, a 13 frame fast heat engager that is +6 on block. Of course, she can also go for bazooka attacks for plus frames and chip damage, forcing even more mix-ups. She can do a homing low that has full instant high crush. She can cancel the stance into her other stances, or cancel it into crouch if you're blocking too much and force her 50-50. It is just too much. The amount of things you need to be thinking about every time an Ana player uses her generic mid-poke on your block is just garbage. It's horrible game design. Her generic jabs are also ridiculously overtuned. For example, her 1-2. This should just be a basic jab string. But of course, in modern Tekken, we can't have that. She can do 1-2 alone, leaving her at -3, and if she thinks at any time you're going to try and press after blocking this and take back your turn, she presses 1-4, and you just got counter hit launched. This is because of how much she's able to delay the third jab. You can't sidestep this string, by the way, because in Tekken 8, all jab strings need to realign for some reason. The final hit is also +4 on block, so even if you respect her and block the whole time, it is still her turn. Okay, so you don't want to press buttons after blocking her 1-2, right? Well, if you respect it, she can now go into hammer chance and is neutral. The mind game being forced here is so dumb. It always relies on you making hard reads. You can make a hard read on the third jab if you think she's going to try and counter hit launch you, and then duck and launch her. However, if she decides not to delay it, the third jab becomes jailing, meaning you cannot duck it. You can only duck if she delays it. So think about all the options you're dealing with from her simple 1-2. Sometimes she'll just do a normal 1-2 by itself, sometimes 1-2 into stance, sometimes 1-2-3 instantly with no final hit so you can't duck, sometimes she'll delay it and try for a counter hit launcher. Why are we giving characters this many mix-up options from jabs? Oh yeah, and by the way, if she just does her 1-2, she also has a safe on block mid to catch people ducking, that gives her +12 into stance, a guaranteed mix-up on hit. She also has another follow-up that counter hit launches. Is this enough mix-ups from a fucking jab string? We're not even done talking about her poking. Her 2 jab is also broken, being a counter hit string, essentially a G-clef. She can use this as a 10-frame interrupt tool that you confirm by going into her stance and get a guaranteed heat engager. Why is her 10-frame jab a counter hit heat engager? There's just so much dumb stuff. She also gets a super delayable safe mid that counter hit launches if you press anything slower than a jab as well. You might not understand this immediately, but this stuff is ridiculous and puts so much mental stack in competitive play. There's no weakness to be found on Ana. No, she doesn't have bad homing, and no, she doesn't have bad punishments. A character who can go into stance for mix-ups from a 10-frame punisher can use her heat smash for a 13-frame 50 damage punish from standing or crouching, get a heat engager at -14, and launch at -15, does not have weak punishments. You cannot make that argument to me. She is 1 frame slower than average to launch lows, but come on, does this look like weak punishment to you? The character in its current state is a complete joke, and unfortunately, she's not alone in that. There is so much more to talk about.
New challenger, Brian Fury.
Brian Fury is a complete nightmare in Season 2. If Ana represents the peak of string-based rushdown in the mix-up archetype, Brian is the peak of the single-hit God button archetype. You aren't going to be getting knowledge checked by Brian, nor are you going to be dealing with constant situations of having to guess over and over and dealing with annoying strings. Instead, you're going to be dealing with a character whose frames are so oppressive that you cannot play the game against him. Anytime you try pressing a button against Brian, you're risking half of your health bar. He's always been like this to an extent, a counter-hit monster with huge damage. But not only was that playstyle buffed in Tekken 8, but he was given so many more tools to make him an all-around character, and was made significantly easier because of this. All of Brian's identity-defining moves are as strong as ever here. We have back 1, a plus on block mid counter hit launcher, 3+4, a huge range kick that counter hit launches and is safe on block due to pushback, forward 3, a mid counter hit launcher that is fast and is anywhere from neutral on block to +2 on block, depending on the spacing, leading into all sorts of traps. 1-2-1 is a jab string that ends with a mid that counter hit launches and is safe on block, a very rare quality to have in Tekken. He has Hatchet Kick, one of the best lows in the game, doing chunky damage, and knocking down on counter hit for even more damage. Alongside Down 4, another god blow that offers insane safety while pushing you back, leaving Bryan at his most powerful range. Bryan gets an Orbital, which is always valuable, being a great fundamental Tekken tool. And how could we talk about Bryan without mentioning the Taunt, the unblockable attack which serves to reward the most technical and executionally gifted players? At least, that's how it used to be. Let's talk about Bryan's new stuff in this iteration of Tekken, because this is where things really start to get dumb. Bryan was given the Cannonball Straight, and this attack, even after getting multiple nerfs, is still one of the best moves in the game. This is essentially a Tekken 6 Jin Electric, an incredibly fast high that gives plus 5 frames of advantage on block with big pushback and is a counter hit launcher. It at the very least no longer gives a guaranteed follow-up on regular hits, since the Season 2 nerfs, because yes, this move used to have even more properties. But even still, it's way too strong. Bryan has generally been a character who needed time to wind up his most powerful counter hit tools. The cost of Bryan getting huge hitting counter hit launchers that are plus on block is that you need to spend a few extra frames to start them up, leaving you vulnerable to quick checks like down forward ones. The only fast counter hit launcher Bryan had in Tekken 7 was the generic Magic 4 that everyone had, and this naturally had small range and gave up your turn if it was blocked. I mean, it makes sense, right? A general balance philosophy in Tekken has been that slower startup moves get to give you an advantage on block, thus building momentum, but the fastest moves usually have some sort of disadvantage on block. There's always been exceptions to this, of course, like the Electric, but my point here is that if a Bryan player wanted to build momentum on a blocking opponent, he previously had to commit to a slower attack. This is no longer the case in Tekken 8 because of this move. It has near infinite range, is incredibly fast, and has very good whiff recovery, meaning whiff punishing it can be a struggle. A character like Bryan being able to get plus 5 from this far away whenever he wants is a problem in my opinion. And it also does chip damage. 6 damage on block might not seem like a lot, but this really does add up. You can sidestep this move, but you need to have great timing because of how fast it is. If you've already started sidewalking when he uses this move, it's gonna clip you. The one downside of this move is that it is a high, so you can duck it, but it's actually really hard to do this in a match against a strong Bryan. It's basically like ducking an Electric. You have to make a hard read, and if you guess wrong, well, good luck. Ducking Bryan is generally a very bad idea, just because of how oppressive all of his mids are. In addition to all the mids he's always had, he's been given plenty of new mids that serve to complement this cannonball even harder. Quarter Circle Forward 1+2, Requiem, is a fast, huge range mid heat engager that is safe on block. This is the primary mid he's going to threaten you with when trying to approach, and is essentially a Mishima Demon Paw. This actually got nerfed in Season 2. It used to be homing, and the tracking was nerfed quite a bit, which is great, but even still, it's a hard move to sidestep. Just with these two moves alone, Bryan now has an insanely strong high and mid to threaten you with from long range. To talk about the rest of his broken tools, we need to get into his install. Bryan was given a new mechanic in Tekken 8 called Snake Eyes, which significantly powers up the character. He can go into Snake Eyes through a couple unique moves, or by taunting, but you're almost always going to be getting this by using heat. Whenever you use a heat engager, or use your heat burst, you get this install, and can basically use it infinitely during heat. And you get one more usage of it after the heat state ends. With the install active, he gains access to the Incinerator String, a series of mid attacks that is likely the strongest string in Tekken 8. It is an attack that was designed with almost zero possible counterplay, and I have no idea how it's still in the game and as strong as it is. It's a 5-hit string, and all 5 hits are natural, which means that if the first one hits you, the rest are all guaranteed for 50 damage. Bryan is able to force crazy mind games from this string because of how safe it is. He can stop the string at any point, and instead of being punishable for finishing it early, like most characters with strings like this, he is only -2. And that, combined with the fact that you as the defender have no idea when he's going to end this string, means you can't react to it. So for all intensive purposes, as soon as Bryan ends this string, it's basically his turn. If you watch any pro players against Bryan, they always respect it as soon as the string ends. If you think he's going to stop and try and interrupt him with an attack, he can finish the string and then you're taking a bunch of damage. If he decides to finish the full string, it's still safe because of the pushback. What this move basically means is that whenever Bryan has Snake Eyes, he gets access to a 15 frame startup mid, natural 50 damage string that he can cancel whenever he wants to basically steal his turn back and keep pressuring you. In Season 2, this was actually technically nerfed to make sidestepping the first hit a little more doable, but I'm still confident in saying that this move might as well be homing. You're not sidestepping it, and even if you do, chances are he'll automatically realign and you'll get hit by it anyway. Incinerator is able to lock you down to such an incredible extent, and he can do this like 5 times in heat. It barely takes up any of the heat gauge. Did a character like Bryan really need a God string? I thought he was supposed to be a single hit based character. Also with Snake Eyes, he gains access to Neo Mockbreaker, another Bryan God move. It's a high attack that comes out fast and is +5 on block with huge pushback. This already seems good, it's basically an electric on block, but there's so much more. It does a laughable 14 damage on block. I feel like no one ever mentions this part when talking about how broken the move is. How did this get approved on the balance team? Why did anyone think that giving an instant heat move like this, 14 damage on block, is at all appropriate for a move like this? You can do 4 of these with a full heat bar and do 56 damage to someone who is blocking. It also does 36 damage on normal hit and wall splats. And by the way, it's a full reversal, essentially a parry. Wait, what? Yes, it also has a strong reversal effect, meaning if you press any button while the move is coming out, he parries it and you get hit anyway. I can't understand this move. How is it still in the game? And we aren't even halfway done with how this install makes Bryan broken. In Season 2, he gained Neo Murderous Strikes, back 1+2, which is a 2-hit mid-mid string, leaving him at +4 in your face, either standing or crouching, making his plus frames even more oppressive. He has the Neo Soul Eraser from his 3+4 counter hit launcher, which is already one of his best attacks, but with the install, he can now hold 1+2 for a guard break, letting him wall splat you. This forces a mix-up because he can also let it go early without fully charging it, if he thinks you're going to try and interrupt it. The quick release version is also safe on block. It actually used to be plus on block. Should Bryan really be able to force mind games from his 3+4 counter hit launcher? Bryan's been given a new low from his full crouch, the Neo Grim Reaper. This is fast, and it does a ton of damage, gives big plus frames on hit, and is only -13, so you're not launching it unless you're one of these guys. For some reason, this low breaks low parries. Not sure why that's a thing. Why are we giving characters lows that break low parry, a universal defensive mechanic? I mentioned it at the start of the Bryan section, but Bryan is kind of the polar opposite of a character like Ana, and he always has been. Rather than looking to apply 50-50s and force your opponent to guess between a mid and a low, he wants you to press into him and score counter hits. His identity has been that he's never had a strong 50-50. Except now he does. Because you're able to go into crouch after landing a heat engager, like we mentioned earlier, and this new crouching Snake Eyes low he's been given, he can get a guaranteed 50-50 chance from a heat engager, either using the low we just mentioned, or one of his normal hit launching mids, either while standing 1 or while standing 2. The character has never been able to do this before in Tekken history, and even if it's not the biggest and most threatening mix-up, which by the way, it's definitely not, it's still one more option for the character who has it all. Now he has a 50-50. Lovely. The last thing I want to mention with Bryan's heat is his taunt heat smash. We talked a little about the taunt earlier. It's always been a part of Bryan's identity and has led to some of the most hype moments in Tekken's history. Ever since Tekken 6, taunt has been balanced around its difficulty. Doing a taunt jet upper, or even a taunt back 4, takes tons of practice, and in a tournament setting where nerves are a big factor, it's very easy to mess up. It is in theory though still broken. You basically have an unblockable that can give you a full launcher wherever you are on the stage. Tekken 8 gave us a new easy mode version, without any executional skill. You can walk up to the opponent in heat, taunt, and then immediately heat smash. Anyone can do this, meaning whenever Bryan's in heat, his taunt becomes a guaranteed 55 damage unblockable that breaks the floor and gives you good Oki. You know it's bad when multiple pro Bryan players don't even go for the hard stuff anymore. So much is simplified on him. And there's still plenty of stuff I haven't mentioned. Taunt in general gives Bryan the best Oki in the game, essentially forcing your opponent to stay on the ground after being knocked down to the wall, because if you try and get up, Bryan can walk up and do another taunt and you lose the game. But, just like always, Bryan loves it when you stay on the ground as well, with quarter circle back 4 being great, flipping them around and resetting the situation. This is god tier Oki. I briefly mentioned it, but Brian's damage is also simply unbalanced in its current state. Any of his million launchers means you're going to the wall. And then he pops heat and uses his enhanced wall ender. Because yes, Brian also gets an enhanced wall combo whenever he's in heat or has snake eyes, giving him one of the highest wall combos in the game. Taking 105 damage from any single combo is terrifying in Tekken, but when Brian does it, you're also waking up to the best Oki in the game. One combo and then waking up to a taunt means that you just lost the round. It's too explosive and fits so well in the Tekken 8 Season 2 meta of winning the game in one interaction. His poking is also still good despite what some people will tell you. I mentioned him having a safe counter hit launching mid from his jab, which is great. He can also go for a pretty safe low, and more importantly, he has 1-2-4, acting as a pseudo G-clef string. You can't confirm it, but whenever a Brian player knows you're going to press, 1-2-4 is a guaranteed string on counter hit and gives a heat engager, giving him a 10-frame jab panic button. He has his down 2 and down forward 2, both great mid pokes, getting access to fully launching follow-ups to catch people off guard if they get counter hit. He has down forward 1, which tracks to his weak side, is fully hit confirmable, and forces a mind game on block, with him actually being able to stop the string at any time. Great homing tools like 1+2 and forward forward 4. His punishment got buffed in Tekken 8, and yeah, after all this, hopefully you can see why Brian is a god. I would say this is the strongest he's ever been, if it weren't for Tekken 5. It's pretty hard to compare the two because so much of what makes Brian strong is based on Tekken 8 systems that didn't really exist in Tekken 5, like Heat. But if someone wanted to say that this is actually the strongest iteration of Brian, I could definitely understand the argument. If you want to play core fundamental Tekken, but also with privilege unlike any other, there's no better pick than Brian. Arslan Ash thinks that Brian is the best character in the game, and there is absolutely an argument for that. That's how good he is.
New challenger, Asuka Kazama.
Asuka is a name I'm sure you guys are pretty sick of hearing about. She's the undisputed winner of Season 2, going from a somewhat underwhelming mid-tier character to now having an argument for the #1 spot. Her success in Season 2 tournament play has been insane to witness. So many players are doing well with her. And of course, she is absolutely everywhere in ranked play, at all levels. The character is just stupidly overpowered right now, and is a great example of the anti-character identity balance philosophy that the balance team seems to love oh so much these days. This is where we take a character with a defined weakness, and then remove it completely, making them a perfect character. Asuka has always been a defensive character first and foremost. She gets access to some of the best and easiest to use turn scaling options in Tekken, like the Kazama Can-Can, shared with June, arguably the best counter hit tool in the game, being a low attack that evades almost everything, launches on counter hit, and is safe on block. A borderline broken tool. She also has access to Wheel Kick, a high kick attack that is safe on block and has an instant full punch parry effect. She can be as unsafe as -6, where she should lose her turn and it should be the other player's turn to press buttons, but if you do try and press a button and take your turn back, it beats all incoming retaliation. Even a little safe jab will get instantly parried and gives her a full launch. Being able to punish the safest moves in the game with a full launch is pretty crazy. And again, even if the Asuka player gets it wrong and you don't press a button, she is safe on block. The only way to beat this attack is to hard call it out and duck it. People don't talk about how strong having a tool like this actually is, and there's so much more defensive stuff on her. Some very strong and generous parries, one of the fastest power crush moves in the game, the turn stealing and keep out monster back 3. She is a defensive god, who rather than using movement to avoid her opponent's attacks, presses buttons for her defense. She's a defensive god. This is what defines her identity. What doesn't define her identity is Bum Rush Season 2 offense. 50/50s looping into each other, stupid chip damage, some of the best combo damage in the game, and crazy oppressive plus frames and lockdown. All of this was given to her in Season 2. The character previously would struggle against strong defensive opponents who just wouldn't press into her, but now in Season 2, she can literally do anything with no weaknesses to be found, and has great options to open up her opponent. Her most problematic move, in my opinion, is Minazuki. This was previously one of her strongest mids from her crouching state, being safe on block and on hit, giving a guaranteed follow-up for good damage, and a wall splat. This was the Season 1 version. Now in Season 2, they've added the ability to hold the input, It only takes 26 frames to fully charge, making it easily one of the fastest charge-up moves in the game, and being decently hard to react to. This move, for some reason, is +8 on block, only 1 frame of advantage less than a heat engager, and it does 12 damage of chip. Why is chip damage still like this? If this move does hit you, she gets 56 damage with its guaranteed follow-up. And the move also has crazy range. This alone makes her crouching mix-up so much more frustrating and in the Asuka player's favor. It's especially broken at the wall. The +8 is just so oppressive, you really can't do anything besides block. And if you try and do anything, like go for a sidestep or use an attack, she's got plenty of options to kill you for it. In addition to this, Asuka's install was significantly buffed in Season 2, and just like Brian, she gets infinite access to it whenever she pops heat. This first and foremost makes her combo damage incredible. And this was a character who traditionally didn't have very high combo damage. I guess in Tekken 8, anyone can just kill you in 2 hits. Her install powers up so much, like her forward 2, which is a move she shares with June. One of the best whiff punishers in the game, giving a full launch for big damage, and is normally extremely risky on block. Since Season 2, she's been given an extension with her install, now making it completely safe on block. Lovely. She's also gotten a brand new string in her install, her up forward 1-2, which is a mid-mid that comes out incredibly fast, does huge damage, tracks to her left, and wall splats. This move goes hand in hand with the charge-up kick we mentioned, because after doing the charge-up kick, this beats sidesteps to both directions. If it clips you, you're gonna get wall splat, and if you block it, she is only neutral, which is a horrible position to be against this character, because of the previously mentioned million god defensive buttons she has that will kill you if you even think about pressing a button. Why does she get lockdown like this? This string is already really great, but it can also be cancelled early, taking her into crouch, and this is where she can start all of her dumb pressure all over again. We see sequences like this so often, where people will use the string, sometimes going into crouch, sometimes doing the charge up, doing the string again, and after all of this, she still hasn't even lost her turn. This is the Season 2 garbage interactions everyone talks about, and is horrible to deal with as a defender. With her install, she also gets one of the best while running moves in the game to approach with, her while running 1+2, being a homing high, normal hit launcher that is +11 on block. Even if it is a high that can be ducked, it's still atrocious to deal with. No move like this should ever give this much frame advantage. After blocking this while running approaching launcher, she can now force her 50-50, and there's nothing you can do. You can't sidestep it, you can't power crush it, you can't interrupt it. I don't get why she needed this. Also in her install, she gets a new approaching normal hit mid launcher that is plus on block. Forward 1+2. And after all this, we haven't even mentioned her actual 50-50. She has both a safe on block, fast normal hit mid launcher, and a chunky and fast knockdown low doing a ton of damage and giving you your install. If she already has the install, you get significantly more damage from the guaranteed follow-up, and this 50-50 now loops into itself. You'd think that was enough tools on a character like this, but there is so much more we haven't mentioned. She has surprisingly good generic tools, like a safe on block down forward 2 mid launcher, a great variety of safe counter hit launchers, strong low pokes, and top tier poking. She has so many strings, and they're some of the most frustrating strings to deal with in the game, in my opinion. Let's take a look at her forward 2, a safe approaching mid with 2 follow-ups, either a natural high heat engager hit, a safe mid, and a chunky unsafe mid that's also a natural. With strings like this, you're generally able to apply a technique called fuzzy guard, where you momentarily duck to avoid the fast high, and either punish it if you see the high, or immediately hold back to block the mid. For some reason, however, she's able to significantly delay the high heat engager, making fuzzy guarding useless against this string. And I haven't even mentioned the best part about this string. The mid option we talked about can also be charged, so as soon as your opponent starts respecting this string, which almost all high-level players will do, you can charge it up for +7 on block, and at the wall, it forces you to take a guess. For more gimmicky stuff, we have her back 2 poke, which is a mid that forces a million guesses. She can do a safe mid-mid-mid string, which sets up into her 1,000 defensive options if she thinks you're gonna press. She can go straight into 1 or more lows. She can do the first 2 mids and then do a homing normal hit knockdown low. And she can also go into this mix-up from her jab. Even if this stuff isn't used super often in competitive play because of the risks, having access to this many mix-ups from simple pokes means you're always getting a very strong mental stack on your opponents. They always need to consider these options if they don't want to get blown up. A lot of her key tools struggle against sidestep right, so she comes baked in with 2 perfect homing attacks, a plus on block homing launcher, and a safe on block homing mid. You cannot tell me characters who have normal hit launching, homing plus on block attacks have bad homing. Let's be real for a second. The only real weakness on this character is not having a traditional 15 frame while standing launcher, but her 14 frame punish still does very chunky damage. There's really nothing else outside of that. This is probably the worst example of Season 2 character changes. They took a character who was fine as is and had a concrete identity, and then decided to get rid of all of her weaknesses and made her insufferable to play against. If everything else is going to stay the same, at the very least her charge-ups need to go. Hwoarang has always been strong since Tekken 8 came out. His classic playstyle of chaining together hit after hit, going between stances, and utilizing his insanely privileged plus frames on block. This playstyle transitioned incredibly well into the Tekken 8 engine. The game now rewards offense more than any other Tekken game, and it's not even close. Now, when he's wailing on your block at huge plus frames, you also take chip damage whenever he's in heat. Whenever you are blocking his crazy pressure, you are slowly dying if he's in heat. Just another example of the chip damage mechanic not being good for this game. Even before Season 2, you would struggle to find a character who is more all-around than this guy. He has some of the best stance pressure in the game, as he shifts from his many stances, always threatening mix-ups, but also amazingly safe poking, arguably some of the best counter-hit tools in the game, some of the best wall travel and combo damage, one of the best heat smashes giving you a full wall splat, a perfect throw game, top-tier keep-out, anything you can think of Hwoarang can do. The only thing holding back Hwoarang is the pilot himself, as he is quite the demanding character to learn and understand. Getting absolutely everything out of this character is not easy. But you know what's even harder than that? Trying to learn how the hell to deal with this guy. There's just so much garbage you need to learn how to handle, to even remotely start understanding how he works these days. In previous Tekken games, Hwoarang was still godly up close, but was balanced around having weaker than average approach tools, meaning he has to work to get in his opponent's face where he's at his strongest. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's pretty common in fighting games for characters who get to be oppressive up close, usually having the weakness of struggling to get in. Well, in true Tekken 8 fashion, this weakness has been largely removed, because of the Black Kite, a new, full-screen approaching mid that is fully homing, plus on block, and a heat engager. It also completely crushes lows because it's a jumping attack. This is already one of his biggest weaknesses fixed, and in Season 2, they decided to fix another weakness of his. Hwoarang has always struggled a bit with sidesteps in previous games, and while this remains true today in between his stance pressure, when it comes to neutral, he's been given crazy homing tools. We already mentioned the Black Kite, but he was also given a brand new low in Season 2, down 3+4, which is designed to counteract this weakness. He now has a homing low he can use whenever he wants, which gives him +6 on hit into his stance pressure, meaning he now has a long-range homing low to start up his pressure whenever he wants. You can't sidestep it. And to make things worse, the low is only -14, so most characters can't launch it. Suddenly, he has quite a lot less weaknesses than he's had before. Another brand new tool he was given in Season 2 is in his right flamingo stance. I'm sure you guys have heard people talk about it. Prior to Season 2, his right flamingo stance would usually be the end of Hwoarang's pressure. He'd go from stance to stance and then would end in this stance and give up his turn. In Season 2, he's been given a brand new tool in this stance that serves to keep his looping string pressure going even more. It's a +4 on block mid-mid string that goes right back into stance looping his pressure. You just never get a break fighting this character. It can quite literally never end until you decide to make a hard read and risk losing all of your life for it. To start, let's talk about his heat, because it changes the character pretty drastically. As soon as he goes into heat, be it from a heat engager or a heat burst, he becomes monstrously strong. We mentioned the chip damage and his wall-splatting heat smash already, which alone would make him one of the better heat users in the game. I mean, look at Jin. People hate his heat, and all he really has out of it is a heat smash that wall splats. Hwoarang, in addition to this, gets a better 50-50. He gains access to a 40 damage hell sweep that wall splats. That's pretty good, but most importantly, is able to change his archetype, going from a rushdown god to a counter-hitting god. For some reason that I still can't understand, while in heat, Hwoarang gains access to a 10-frame counter-hit launcher. He can launch you from his generic 2 jab. By pressing 4 right after his 2 jab, you could always transition into his right flamingo stance. But during heat, one of the options from this stance, his flappy kicks, gets greatly enhanced and now becomes a guaranteed launcher. This is the fastest counter hit launcher in Tekken 8. The only other character in the game who gets anything like this is Martial Law, through his 1-1-1 string, allows him to heat dash for a counter hit launcher. This is an incredibly rare trait and is extremely overpowered. One of the general philosophies coming from Tekken 7 to Tekken 8 was reducing the potency of counter hit launchers. In Tekken 7, almost every character had a launching magic 4, being a 13 frame fast counter hit high launcher. These were all removed in Tekken 8, and many other fast counter hit launchers were also removed. So giving a character the ability to counter hit launch you from a 10 frame jab seems pretty counterintuitive, doesn't it? This just makes him so scary to press into. Hwoarang is already scary to press into when he's in his looping stance pressure, but now with this, he's also scary to press into at neutral. At any time, if you go for a move slower than 10 frames and he predicts it, he launches you from a jab. Great. He also has his down back 4, a very strong low poke that becomes a full counter hit launcher in heat. His up forward 4, a fast, evasive, safe mid, you guessed it, becomes a counter hit launcher when he's in heat. This just gives him everything he needs, a high, mid, and low counter hit launcher that are all incredibly safe and lead to huge damage. So now you can basically never press into him. And if you get scared and decide to respect him, get ready to block for 20 seconds and take a million chip damage. Anyone who knows this is going to be terrified to press into him. So what do? You decide to block and respect him. And as soon as you do that, get ready for him to start his pressure sequences again, giving him huge plus frames, and you are going to be taking chip damage throughout the entire duration, possibly getting wall splat from an unreactable low into 80 damage. Being able to counter hit launch from a jab alone would make his heat top tier, but when you combine it with everything else, you get an incredibly broken character. Heat aside, he also gets some of the best lows in Tekken. We already talked about the homing low in Hell Sweep, but we also have down 3-4, a classic low-high string, taking him into his right flamingo stance at plus 14, which of course comes bundled for free with the new attack in Season 2 we just mentioned, which gives you plus 4 into even more stance pressure. You just have to take this, there's nothing you can do. His down back 4, the low we just mentioned that becomes a counter hit launcher in heat, is considered by many to be the best low in the game. Not only does it take you into stance on regular hit to start all your pressure, but it also requires you to take a guess if you want to punish it on block. If a Hwoarang uses this low and you block it, you're normally plus 13, meaning you can get a nice quick punish. But remember, he can go into stance from this low, not just on hit, but also on block, turning the situation from minus 13 to only minus 1 for Hwoarang. This isn't too unusual. There's actually quite a few lows in Tekken that let you go into stance on block to technically make it safe, but the catch is that you are unable to block in the stance, and usually the fastest move you can do from this stance will lose to a quick punish. Technically not punishable, but still punishable anyway because they're locked into stance and you have a frame advantage. Okay, well, Hwoarang goes into stance at minus 1 if this is blocked, meaning technically a quick jab should be able to beat any option Hwoarang goes for in this stance. I mean, after all, the fastest moves in Tekken are 10 frames, and if he's at a 1 frame disadvantage, simple math tells us that he'd have to use an 8 frame attack to beat out jabs. Good thing they don't exist, right? Right?
NANI?
Hwoarang's flappy kicks, the move in stance we talked about earlier, making his 2 jab a counter hit launcher, comes out at 8 frames. Literally a rule-breaking attack. I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Hwoarang is the only character in the game to have an 8 frame startup attack from a regular stance. Quite a few characters are able to get 8 frame attacks from back turn stances, like Lily for example, but for regular stances, Hwoarang is completely unique here. And do you know what this means? If you block Hwoarang's down back 4, and you try to do the fastest punish possible, your reward for blocking this low is getting counter hit launched and taking 80 damage. Flappy kicks beats every option, which means that every time you block this move, you need to take a mix-up. If you know he's going to do the flappy kicks, you can hold crouch instead of punishing and then launch him after it's done. But what if he doesn't? He can always go for one of his many mids in this stance, and he can also choose to not go into stance, essentially making this a safe on-block low. Why is the defender at such a huge disadvantage when trying to deal with a move like this? It just makes no sense. This isn't the only move of its kind. There's a few other lows that work like this. Leroy has one, for example, but none of the other ones end with you getting launched if you guess wrong. Hwoarang's does. So let's combine all this dumb heat stuff with some of the best damage and wall travel in Tekken. Some of the best generic tools, like a -1 on block down forward 1, a safe on block generic down forward 2 launcher for combos, an orbital, meaning a safe on block evasive mid launcher, and some very strong keepouts. Back 3 serves as an excellent whiff punisher, giving a full launch and making your opponents scared to ever whiff anything in front of you. Hwoarang has one of the best mid launchers in the game, the Just Frame Skyrocket, which, while very technically demanding, gives him access to an extremely fast mid launcher that is safe and leads to some of his biggest combos. If all this hasn't been enough so far, he's also got great Power Crush utility, which is especially valuable in Season 2, now that pro players are throwing out Power Crushes like Fujin's. He has Backlash, which is a crazy high homing Power Crush tool that is +4 on block. He's got down forward 3-2, a 2-hit homing Power Crush that he can cancel into stance pressure. You'll see so many Hwoarang players shifting in and out of Power Crush, just serving to make their pressure even more annoying. And by pressing just down forward 3 by itself, you can actually approach your opponent while in a Power Crush state. No other character in the game can do something like this. Keep in mind that after all we've talked about, I haven't really gotten into his stance stuff, which is what makes him so oppressive in the first place. He can enter both of his flamingo stances whenever he wants, simply by doing a jab. He's able to go into stance at +3 from a jab. Tell me that's not privileged. He can use forward 4, a +9 on block high, so if you don't magically predict this and duck it neutral, get ready for the blender. From there, he can do whatever he wants. As I mentioned earlier, as soon as you decide to respect him, he's going to go to town. Everything is plus on block. And remember, if he's in heat, you are taking chip damage the entire time. I want to be clear, there's absolutely counterplay to his stances. If you know where to find gaps in his pressure, when to sidestep, and when to duck, you can blow up 90% of the flowcharty Hwoarang players online. But what happens in tournament play, when the Hwoarang actually knows how to deal with players like this? Well, then you get into the mind games. And remember what I mentioned about Anna and Asuka being so strong because they can force mind games from simple, safe attacks. Hwoarang is this to the max level, and just knowing how many sheer options he has in his stances creates a huge mental stack on the defender trying to deal with him. There's always a million options he could go for, and you better be ready to know how to deal with each one. He's also the only top tier we've talked about with a perfect throw game, meaning he has command throws that require a 1, 2, and 1+2 break. Even more than that, he has a homing command throw, currently being the only character in the game, besides these two in Heat, who get neutral command throws that are homing. He also has another command throw with an 11 frame startup, 1 frame faster than everyone else. Some of the best grabs in Tekken, and no one talks about that. He's just the complete package with virtually zero weakness. Everything you could ever want on him, every approach to Tekken, every playstyle, it just works. You can play him super risky and mix-up based, but you can also play him very safe. It all works. These 4 top tiers aren't even necessarily the top 4 most powerful characters. There's plenty of others in contention, and it obviously all comes down to personal opinion. I have a whole other video on Clive going over why I think he's the worst archetype in Tekken, and I'm actually currently working on another video where we'll go into detail looking at Claudio and Nina, 2 other gods of Season 2 who are complete polar opposites, one being the most simple version of a Tekken top tier we've arguably ever seen, and the other being among the most complex. I do, however, believe the characters we've talked about today are the best current examples of the modern Tekken character philosophy we started to see in Tekken 7 with its DLC. Nowadays, so many characters just aren't given any weaknesses to be found, and are allowed to excel at quite literally everything. Since when did all-rounders and jack-of-all-trade archetypes also mean being one of the best at everything? Characters like this used to be made strong by having a lot of strengths, but also not excelling at any particular one. That's where specialist characters come in. We've almost just lost this in modern fighting games, and if you ask me, it is boring. It's not fun to fight a character who's just the best or close to the best in every given attribute. It's also not fun to fight a character with no defined weakness, where the only counterplay you can really suggest revolves around reading the player themselves, not the character. I'm really hoping Tekken starts to realize that we don't want our Tekken characters to function like this. The past 2 DLC characters, Falcon Ram and Armor King, have both showed promise in this regard, having clear defined weaknesses. So let's all come together and pray to the Tekken gods above that Season 3 significantly nerfs the current top tiers of this game. If they don't, I'm not sure the game is gonna last. I really don't want to see more people getting frustrated and quitting Tekken, because I love this series and I want it to be the absolute best it possibly can be. So, here's hoping. Anyway, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and would appreciate you even more if you dropped a like or comment on the video, and subscribed of course if you're new. Listen, I hate shilling, but unfortunately, it is the name of the game here on YouTube. Your boy's gotta pay his rent. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.